Hey Brian, good to see you. I've got new headphones on, so hopefully it doesn't mess with the sound too much. Right now I'm just doing a quick warm-up. Nothing too crazy. I had a lot of design work I had to do today, so it was not a ton of drawing, so I'm a little rusty at the moment. Hopefully we'll get there. How are you doing? That's a giant pile of ash cans that you sent. The tick ones. That's pretty cool. I honestly don't even know what those go for now. I have no idea. Like I know that they're before the white version, which is like the special edition one, which is the one I have that one, but I almost never see that stuff. Happy New Year, Isaiah. Congratulations on your big video premiere. Big stop motion premiere. That was pretty amazing, man. Oh, it's super exciting, man. Feel free to throw a link. Hey, Jonathan. Yes, step one, we are funded and we are in production. So, I mean, I had been working on it prior to the Kickstarter. I didn't have it finished, obviously, but a lot of development work, got all the writing done, all the layouts, all the dialogue, all the setup work. Now it's just the execution. And we got stretch goals, we got all kinds of stuff. Trying something new where you guys can actually see your own comments on the screen there. I don't know if that's cool for you or not, but all right, I'll get out that little piece I've been working on. I've just been trying to get my feet moving, so I've been working on this exercise, and it's not really for anything other than just for it to exist and for me to knock the rust off of making pages because I've just been doing the Kickstarter and so much other stuff lately. So get my seat so I'm a little more comfortable. Hey Chad, how are you? All right, I need to get my eraser. Some of this stuff needs a little cleanup. Not because of the car, but because the paperwork for the registration wasn't where it was supposed to be. So I had to go online and buy another one and print it out. And printing was a pain because we were out of ink, so I had to go to Staples. It was a mini trip thing. where it should have just been one or two. But hey, hey, Gregory. Yeah, this is just my character, Helena. She's, my fantasy sword and sorcery killer of monsters, tough lady. Um, we've done one issue of her stuff, like one and a half. I did an Ashcan pre-issue one thing when I was real young, years ago now. Jonathan was there for that. So was Jay and everybody. I was actually going to bug you, Jonathan. I might go see Aquaman on Thursday in your neighborhoodish area if you wanted to go. I'm going to go after work. It's probably the last time in my lifetime that Aquaman will be on a movie screen, so I got to go. Hey, Ethan, thank you. Yeah, we are in production, so my waking hours are my free time is gone. I will be, in fact, and this is something that I'll be posting about. I will be closing my online store for the time. Um, there will be no like outside commissions while I'm working on this stuff. I might do sketches if I get invited to any conventions. I think I'm doing the Little Giant show. I know I am actually. Jason sent me the confirmations. I'll do sketches at shows, but I will not be doing at home commissions for some time. Unless I, get hit by a bus and desperately need to pump out some commissions to cover some bills or whatever. But the intention is to just not have to not do anything of that sort for some time. It's a really simple story. You can see that, Helena is being led around by this guy who's not a good guy, and she knows it's a trap, and Injata and Saga know it's a trap. And then you see that it's a trap, and then, Helena tries to press it forward, and then you see what you think is the trap. And then, the next page, we have to obviously subvert expectation a little bit. Um, we find out what the trap really is. Now, Greg, I included yours on the list of the ones from the Kickstarter, so it just won't be any additional ones other than the ones I already have. So yours is on that list. That's why I mentioned when you were inquiring about it that it would be on that list. It's just not going to be any further ones from outside. I can't take on any more of a list. Um, yeah, if you look back in our chat exchange, that's why I mentioned the Kickstarter commissions, because there's a bunch of them I got to do, and I will complete yours in that pile. Some of them are already done because I was pre-doing some sketches, like people who got watercolors on issue zero covers, people who got ink drawings on issue zero covers. A lot of those are already done. I already finished them. There's always that moment in a story where I believe a comic book has to acknowledge that the reader is a part of the story. They're the engine of the story, the page turner and everything. And this is that moment where one of the characters is looking back towards the camera. This is one of the people that's going to supposedly get the drop on Helena. So it's true. I believe that, and because when you're doing a layout, you're doing it in such a manner as to hopefully conduct the way the viewers uh, absorb the story, the pacing, everything. You can control the viewer to a certain degree, except for the page, how quickly they turn the page. Usually, like I can slow you down with more panels if you're someone who looks, unless you skip stuff, then I can't help you there. How you doing, Robert? Working on any paintings or drawings lately? Still thinking about a someday comic book? Oh yeah, this has just been an exercise, and this is the same ink wash that if you saw last week's show that we were practicing just on a separate sheet of paper. Ink wash, I've long been a proponent of. I've always enjoyed it. I've got ink wash drawings from all the way back to when I was a kid, actually, just because I always liked it more than like markers because it was like a hybrid of like painting and drawing. That's kind of like my sweet spot. I do have some. Okay, Robert, you're going to do that Todd McFarlane thing. You can already see the comments, and Robert is planning on doing this cover contest that Todd is running. Um, the art contest thing, I'm not a big fan of. I'm just not, because you're asking a whole bunch of people, and some of them are paid professionals just trying to get work to do work for free. And I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the art contest as a methodology of like getting people published or whatever. I don't like that tactic. It wastes a lot of people's time. And you know, I'm sure his heart's in the right place of like letting the fans make stuff or whatever they want. I'm just not a fan of art contests for talent search. You know, and he's got like some of the best creators in the world working on this book. So like, I don't know. It's a weird situation. This is drawn at print size, so yes, Desiree, Happy New Year. I hope you're feeling better. I saw your post about your ailment, and back when I played sports, I've had a concussion in my day, and it is not a fun thing to go through. So I really hope that it's not a lingering thing. Robert. It's entirely at the artist's discretion, obviously. This is basically at print size. Like if we were to make a comic book with it, here's the here's like a bag and board. You're the queen of concussions. There's got to be a story there. One of the worst ones I had was actually from baseball. I was playing third base, and there was a line drive that was hit, and I dove towards the foul line, and my head hit third base, and it didn't knock me out, but you know, and that was during the time where they were not good about taking folks off the field if they had a concussion. So I of course was playing, um, which was stupid. I think we need to move the figures a little bit just because they're a little bigger than I had originally intended. Robert says it's weird to think that there was a time when people thought getting a knock on the head in sports was okay and would not do lasting damage. Yeah, I mean, I have many a tales from that era of sports because I played it. I played high school and college sports at a time when um, performance enhancing drugs, concussions, uh, rampant cruelty to people who were at all different, is the best way I can put it, was in the environment that we were playing, just trying to play a game. So maybe someday I'd make a comic book about it, but uh, I don't know. I don't know if people want to hear me talk about the toxic masculinity in 90s sports culture. Ethan said the worst head hit he had was on his bike by a car. The helmet saved your life. Couldn't talk for 2 months. My goodness, that's terrible. You are very lucky that you got hit by a car and you're still with us and doing well. So, man, that's scary. That's super scary. I've really been working on the cheekbone eye socket portion of the face lately. And that's why you can see like these really pronounced cheekbones and just working out where everything is um, from a more academic standpoint. I'm not saying I draw in any sort of like realism forward facing way. Um, yeah, pronounced cheekbones because it's bone under there, that's where the jaw meets it. Here's where the teeth come down. If you're going to line up everything, you want to get it right. So big eye sockets. just trying to work on that, really. Chad asks, which character is my favorite to write or draw? Any of my own characters, I have a blast drawing, but for characters that I didn't create or anything, I really enjoy drawing the Tick and Conan, and of ones that I've worked on professionally, those are probably my two favorite. Or Red Sonja, I enjoy. Um, but yeah, any character I created, I enjoy drawing. I also love drawing. There's a bee character in um, the Tick named Caped Cod. He's one of my favorites, just because like such a weird, very specific kind of character of like that's a lot like some actual people that I know. Um, I don't have the level of nostalgia that I used to from drawing characters, especially superhero characters. I really like when I get asked to draw non-superhero characters. That's like my thing at the moment, at least. I have some fun with superheroes from time to time, but I just don't generally draw them on my own. And when I do draw them, it's usually ones that nobody likes, like Superman. It's like, oh, he's boring. I don't know. It's kind of the most important superhero they ever, you know, ever created by two guys from Cleveland. I like drawing fantasy characters. I like, I'd really like to get a shot at like a John Carter of Mars cover. I've done some stuff for Dynamite, and that's like the Burroughs stuff is kind of like the last checkbox of things that they have. Either the Burroughs stuff or the Shadow. One of those two would be like the last of the check boxes that Dynamite has that I'd be interested in. I think that I'm at a point in my career where I'm not looking to just draw anything, you know. I mean, Iron Face was a blast to draw. I love drawing that book. I've talked to, the creators of that on a couple of occasions, and, there've been discussions, but nothing's ever materialized. So, hopefully it'll, change someday. I just love drawing that book. It was just so weird and so funny and so like just the naivete of a child's perception of like 80s adult films and entertainment was just such a wild idea to me. I think by now, pretty much everybody that has met me, has either bought or been like grandfathered in a copy of Iron Face if they bought something off my website. Because for a while there, I was just like, oh, I would like as many people to read this as possible, so I would include it with orders and stuff from the website. Although I'm low on copies now, so that practice ended. My friends Rich Woodall, who did a cover for Undersea Hero, has a Kickstarter that I shared on my page. If anyone is interested in a book called The Gods of Brutality, it's a very Woodall concept. He was the writer on it. He worked with another artist. This is for their trade paperback, so I believe their book is totally done. So it's more like just buying it from an online store than like funding for launching or making a project. I'm told that there's snow heading my way, which I have mixed feelings about. Hello, Raki, new person. Nice to meet you. Welcome to our little corner of the artistic interwebs. There's a lot of artists in the stream tonight. A lot of writers. So nice to meet you as well. Yeah, if you don't know, we meet here every Wednesday. Anybody who can make it. And yeah, we'll talk art, we'll talk comics. Robert asks, after the Kickstarter, will the book be available in an online store? Not until after everyone who backed it on the Kickstarter gets their copy, because I don't think it's fair to just have it available after they did all this stuff to make it happen. So they will get first copies, and it'll actually be available at 2 regional comic book stores as well. There were 2. One of them was Rubber Chicken Comics, and I'm going to have to check where the other store was, but 2 retailers bought the retailer tier. I will probably send out an email to see if any other stores want to get in on it before I order the books from the printer, but we have plenty of time for that. Raki says they are not an artist, and that's why they watch. Well, you're welcome to hang out. We got plenty of non-artists as well. Sometimes we talk art, sometimes we talk baseball, sometimes we talk pure nonsense. So oh, thanks, Brian. Brian says he's not an artist, but he's an Ian fan. You can draw. Brian's being modest. He can draw. And I find that's the case for lots of people that, I find that so many people can draw. They just don't have the time or the impetus to put time in. They have things like lives and stuff. That's true. Desiree and Brian are probably 2. They both have to be in the top 10 Tick fans, not related to Ben Edlund. I did receive a Christmas card from the folks at New England Comics, so who knows? Raki says it's quite late where they are, and that's putting this on as you sleep. Well, you're welcome to drift off to ramblings about comics and the Tick. Oh, thank you. I was less calm earlier. I had some deadlines I was under for work, so I was probably a little less relaxed. But I had a nice salad for dinner and some garlic bread, and I'm feeling pretty good. So, and we had a successful Kickstarter. So, once I get to talk to my friends, who I think pretty much everybody here helped make it happen. So, um, thank you so much. I mean, now I just got to work my butt off to get all the pages done. But we did get some help, so we hit a stretch goal where I get to hire my buddy Jesse, and Jeff and Brian have offered to put in some help, and I had some friends offer to help pack and ship the books when they're done. So I was scared about being in it all by myself, and thanks to some really good folks, I do not feel as alone up against it as I did, a week ago or 2 weeks ago. So 2 weeks ago, I did have a day of like existential dread. Um, what did Brian say? Brian said he got his picture once with Ben at a Comic Con, but that's the extent of it. But I got my picture. That's true. We have had our picture taken together several times. Our neighbor at Boston, the nice artist from Canada, took our picture. I forget who it was they said they worked with. Um, didn't know if it was Fraction or I forget which writer that they American writer they'd been working with. Oh, thank you, Gregory. Isaiah says Ben's literally the coolest dude ever and super sweet. He's always been super nice to me. He's always answered my dumb questions. There was a point where I'd asked him, because anyone who's read the Tick comics, which is where my enjoyment began, and if you haven't read them, I would recommend reading the early Edlin ones first, the originals. And Arthur goes through a very dramatic physical change over the course of his existence. Like he loses probably, I don't know, what would you say, like 90 pounds? And it was funny. I just asked Ben like why that was the case. And he said it's because he wanted him to look more like a sidekick, like a Robin, rather than like a second hero. So that was the that was why he changed from being like a big, almost like the hippopotamus dancing hippos from Fantasia size big to like, Batman and Robin sidekick size small. Thank you, Racky. Um, Desiree says that she pesters Bob, Ben, and I as often as possible. Have you ever seen his band? I've never seen it live. I've listened to some of it on YouTube. I don't have Spotify. I know that's where like his current new output is, but I've only heard Ghost Tiger on the old stuff. I know. I think Isaiah has seen them. Yeah, I think Isaiah has seen because I've seen a picture of you with Ben in full makeup. I think at one point. Yeah, that was it. Isaiah dressed as Calvin for the last one. Ghost Tiger and Friends. You can't leave out the and Friends. I'm drawing a little slower than I normally do, and that's because I'm drawing at print size, which basically means that it would print at the same size. Like, and when you do that, usually you draw a lot bigger so that when it shrinks, it actually tightens up the line art. And when it's, printed at the same size that it's drawn, there's no forgiveness in the reproduction. So And one of the things I try to do, even on just a little strip like this, because this is just an exercise, is moving the head. Make sure you're drawing hands, because you got to have practice drawing hands all the time. Try to have some varied expressions. Get a smile in there. Get like a "yeah, I don't believe that" kind of you know crook of the mouth. A little bit of surprise, but not too surprised. A sneer, like a pure sneer. I try to vary the expressions. That's one of the things that I really like to draw. Michael DeFonte is here. Another artist. See? Artists all over the place. Did you get a good critique on your book? I think you were submitting it to someone for uh, review and checking it out when last you were here. It's true. Robert says throw a stick anywhere in this room and it'll hit an artist. And people do different stuff. Desiree is a writer, different form of art. Yeah, I had some people staring at me at the garage while I was working on this. I just had it on like a lap board. I remember there was one time I had to go to the garage and I had a deadline for some interior pages. I was actually working on them um, in the lobby, which that's how it goes. Michael says he did get a review of the book and made some changes, and now it's ready for a printer. Just have to find a printer now. I was thinking more as publishing, but I've never dealt with them. Are you getting it just stapled, saddle stitched? Or are you trying to get it like perfect bound? Like what type of binding are you looking to do? Because different printers are better with different ones. I wouldn't, I work with one down in Florida that's great with staples, but they're not great with their glue binding, I would say. Um, See, now what I want to do is I want to get a more broad pen. If it's 48 pages, I would get it stapled. I can send you a link to the folks that I use if you want. It's just Comic Impressions down in Florida. They do a very good job. Price is good for stapled stuff. They do a good job. I think their minimum is 25. I think that's their minimum, 25 copies, which is pretty good. This day and age, compared to when I was first starting, you used to have to print at least a couple of hundred for people to even give you a quote. It'd be like, the minimums were just much higher back in the day. Even for photocopy books, like it was kind of absurd based on like having worked at a print shop and knowing how much money they were making off of us. Holy Toledo. Yeah, it's crazy to think about that. When you learn how much a sheet of paper costs and then how much like the one click of toner costs. It's it's crazy to think about how much money they were making, back in the day, back before there was all this there was a lot more competition for the printing dollar and people weren't sending stuff overseas and things. Which that's something I've never done. I know people use, services like Print Ninja and things that come from overseas. I've just never done it. So I've heard good stories, and I've also heard like the ultimate nightmare story about, having stuff printed like that. So, it's not my story to tell, but like, let's just say they came in printed very wrong, um, and they were shipped directly to a place where they needed to be selling the next day. So yeah, that's no problem. I'm happy, Mike, to send you the link after the stream. Yeah, I am. I do think I am going to try to go see Aquaman on Thursday, as long as they have a late enough show at my local theater. I do. I think it'll. I think it would be the last time the character of Aquaman is in a solo film in my lifetime. Brian says, I've done printing in the US and in China. I've never had a problem with printing in US. Um, Michael says, I heard some people have used printers in South America, but they have to deal with tariffs, I imagine. I've never used a printer in South America, so I have no experience with that. I mean, I worked for a book publisher in Boston, and I've used printers all across this country, in Canada, and in the UK, actually. We found that for paperback books, it was just cheaper to print them for stores in the UK and have them distributed directly to the stores from the printer than it was to ship stuff from our warehouse in the US, which, you know, just one of those things you learn working as a book publisher. Oh, I understand, Desiree. Godzilla minus one. I want to see that as well, but I have a feeling, like I said, that Aquaman will never be in theaters again. So Having grown up an Aquaman fan and faced the ridicule, the fact that we lived in a world where it was the highest grossing comic book movie ever for a period of time, uh, you have to include the international because it did super well, like, overseas. And it's not gonna be a great movie, I just need to not be bored. That's really, like, my bottom rung. Show some cool underwater stuff. Don't bog it down with too much, you know, poorly researched, I would say, what would you call it? Greek mythology. Oh, I missed a bunch of comments here. Desiree says, "I bet the character shows up in the James Gunn verse." I would like it to. Oh, there we go. We got a bot. Look at that. Sorry for bothering me, but they want to like come and take money I don't have, I guess. This is what happened during the Kickstarter, and the tactics were all over the place. There were phishing emails. There were all kinds of like, they sent direct messages, they sent text messages, they sent all kinds. There were just, I was shocked at the amount of like spam trying to take what little money I have, um, and then the money that is being raised to make this book for themselves. Like it was disgusting. Like it really was. And if and I was discussing it with another person, like, you know, what would I have fallen for some of that at any point? And I said, yeah. Yeah, because I think that, when I was a younger creator, I was definitely more desperate to get people to like just notice the work. I've been lucky that, and I've been doing it so long now that I have got a lot of friends and a lot of people I've met that are willing to at least look at the work. They don't always have to buy it or support it, but they'll take a look at it. And I do want to mention one thing that I have just experienced with some of the ongoing Kickstarters with my friends. I never once used the at everyone, the at highlight, the at followers, whatever tag on Facebook, because I find it immensely annoying. If there's news that you have to get out, like if there is an emergency, if there's like something bad, like yeah, go for it, please. I wanna get that. But like if it's just like, hey, look at my thing, at everyone. I told myself I would only use it if come like the last day or two we were close to the goal. And we were very lucky that we had gotten funded in a couple of hours. So exactly, yes. The at everyone to have them buy their t-shirt or something. That's precisely the type of thing that I've been inundated with. And then people adding me to random chats. Don't like that either. Um, I'm perfectly cool with like send me an invite to like pages or whatever, because then I'll just like go look at it. And if I don't like it, I don't have to like it, or I don't even have to look at it. But because I like seeing my friends work. And obviously if you know me, just you know, send me a message. Hey, I've got a thing up. Happy to support it. So now we've got our first character sketched in there. shot of it. Hey, thanks, Scienton. I do apologize if I'm mispronounced anything. Brian Bollinger, on a different note, have you seen anyone doing cosplay of any characters I've created? No, nope. No, wait, that's not true. There were people who dressed up as some of the altered reality characters. Those were the ones I created for the like the Rhode Island Comic Convention and those other shows and stuff. People did dress up as those characters, like the Road Warrior, and I believe someone dressed up as um, God, what was the other early one that was pretty basic? Was it the Lark? I don't remember, but I do believe that there were two there like that. Hey, if somebody wanted to dress up as a character I created, cool. Helena probably does lend itself to it, but it's one of those where I'm just in it to make the funny books. I'm not in it to make movies. I'm not in it to make anything other than what you see before you. Um, uh, Yang Peng says, "Ooh, hello. Welcome to our Wednesday live stream. Quite a few people coming in and out tonight, so welcome everybody that's new that hasn't popped in." Here's a varied angle I was talking about. Just the angle at the hand, he's pointing at those characters. So, like the storytelling, even if there's no talking. And when you see me do the ink wash of this will all be in heavier shadow, and then this will be in light. So it like has the depth. There will be probably two major tones here, heavy on the darks, and then I'll probably have some more. I might even go back in and add more spotted blacks once we get all the shapes in there. The question is, I have a question. How to break the panels according to the script? I mean, how do you break them? What to show in which panel? That's a good question. And it's got a complicated answer. It depends on the script. It also depends on who's writing it, what the characters are doing, what the characters are feeling. Like, in a situation like this panel here, when I wrote just like what was in it in like one little line, it was Helena confronts um, uh, Weasley guy. And I didn't write in like she pulls her axe up and brings it up to his face to threaten him. And then she points at him like this is storytelling and character stuff that I'm adding on top of it. And that's something I do oftentimes with a script from someone else. Like you can ask Jeff McClellan, and I'm sure I've driven him nuts on more than one occasion by adding movement, adding character expressions, adding, because I read the whole script. Not everybody reads the whole script. Like Gene Colan used to just start at page one and pencil the first page. I always read the whole script. I make notes. I make little sketches in the margins, and yeah, and then I do the breakdowns from there. And then I always put the balloons in, I space them out. But yeah, picking the right shot because camera angles matter. And like, I would say, understanding the flow of action and understanding the fundamentals, like the rule of thirds. Um, there's a lot of things that go into those decisions. And then there's also just like personal choice. Like, I would much rather have more storytelling and motion than, you know, um, than lighting. I'm not as big into lighting as I probably should be. That's one thing that, like, you can see it here. I've established light sources, I have shadows and things, but like I am not going in and like rendering every tiny little bit for lighting purposes. So like yeah, you can see there's lighting here. Michael says, when do you recommend using pens versus brush when inking? This is being drawn very small, so I have to use pens. I almost always prefer brush or brush pen, I should say, as we've talked about many times. This is my favorite tool. Um, I can't even use my usual pens, these ones, because it's so small. Um, I don't know if I have any comic books right next to me, which is weird. There we go. Here's the last. This is my copy. This is issue. I always take the last issue for myself. This is 250. You can see that this is barely bigger than a comic book. Um, so it's basically just a little over print size, maybe 20% bigger tops. So when I'm drawing these little things, I use pens. And the reason I'm doing it like this is just an exercise. I'm not doing this for a book. This is not for anything other than I need to finish some comic book panels to really get my feet moving to go on Undersea Hero. And I may not even do the other 3 pages. It may just be this one page. And if I get trapped later on, I'll do the next one. I'll keep it in a folder, and if it gets done, well, I'll just post it on my website and you can make fun of it then if you like. Or you can say, wow, I saw him working on that gigantic waste of time. No, it's not a waste of time. This is really important. I just need a reset to really get myself into that mental space of visual storytelling. So I can make those decisions better. So I can make those panel decisions better so that I can do the executions and, just get used to sitting there and getting through a drawing. Like working on that campaign, like I swear every day I had to come back and make some other graphic, answer some messages, um, all kinds of things. And you can see how small these are. Like this is really like what, maybe an inch tall, and it's a full figure. Yeah. And when I do a strip instead of a page, the artists that come to most mind are like, obviously like, Al Williamson, um, you know, I think of his work quite often when it's like genre fiction. Now, his stuff was very heavily photo referenced, but I still enjoyed it. It's very different from mine, but people talk about Hal Foster, of course. You know, when you're talking about adventure strips, but I mean, the guy who I've actually gravitated more as I've gotten older is Milton Caniff. Did like Terry and the Pirates and Steve Canyon, just from a stylistic standpoint, the visual storytelling, the choices that he made. But you can see that mine has kind of more of a, what's the word, choppier line. His lines were like razor blades were drawn, and my lines have like soft soft edges. I now move them more. I'm not as worried about doing a tight line every time, and that tends to drive people a little nuts because they want, especially editors, because they want those clean razor blade 90s image inker lines because they've been the industry standard for so long, for mainstream comics at least. And I won't say I'm rejecting the notion of them. I'm just not. I've just come to that point in my career where I'm like, this is not me, and I have to force myself to do like stuff that I'm not good at to try to be mediocre at doing that. Whereas then with this type of stuff, I can really focus on some things that I am good at, and improving on the other things, but like I can grow more as an artist, I think, by studying the storytelling rather than the rendering and the structure. Storytelling and structure are kind of like my go-to study areas. And sometimes it's just a silly little sketch on a piece of paper, but I'm trying something. I'm working something out. And I actually think I have to go back in with a slightly thicker pen and go over this lettering so it's a little bit more broad. It's a little too fine. The line's a little too fine. I used just one of these pens, and that was a mistake. Hey, we still got quite a few people in here, so I don't know. We've talked about some of the stuff that I learned about the Kickstarter. I did learn finally, and this is one of the things that held me back from doing a Kickstarter is I wanted to know the tax laws behind it, and I asked accountants, I asked people who did Kickstarter, and then when the Kickstarter ends, they send you an email with the important information. Like honestly, if they had just sent me this email or saved a copy of it, it had all the information that I needed. As far as dealing with sales tax for the out of state orders, which important question. Like, how much money do I have to pay? I just, based my numbers off of having to pay Massachusetts sales and use at the top of the mark, and then probably, a certain percentage above that was what I added to it. And it wound up being very, very close to what I projected. So that was one thing that I learned. And there were some really, really kind people who I didn't expect to back it, who I've known in the scene, and people I hadn't seen in a while, and it was really lovely to see some of that. There were some people I was surprised did not back it, but if they didn't like the book, they didn't like the book, so I'm not gonna poo-poo their decision not to back it. I did not expect a talking cephalopod to be everyone's, as I like to say, flavor of ice cream. Squid flavored ice cream. No, no, no. I just meant that's one of my phrases that I like to say for, I like rum raisin ice cream. Not a lot of people like rum raisin ice cream. I like, I think vanilla is one of the most underappreciated flavors. People dismiss it, but a great vanilla is great, great vanilla. There. Well, let's get our more broad pen and we can fill in some of this space. See all those little lines to fill in so much of this just so that it looks kind of correct? Oh, hey, Julie. Hey, no worries. No, shipping anywhere around the world is expensive, and I actually didn't offer the shipping around the world. The only thing that you could have backed was like the digital rewards. So I miss you, and I hope that you are happy and well in your part of the world. Julie and I were practically neighbors at one point, many moons ago. I want to add just a little bit of drop shadow here, in full ink mode, a little bit more dark here, just because it needs to serve as the border. I do wonder what our old LCS owner would have thought of Undersea Hero. There used to be a store in our neighborhood which closed a number of years ago now. Owner was a nice guy, strong opinions on some comics, not unlike many comic stores, but he was a good fellow. I wonder how he's doing. Julie says, Sue too, happy here, but busy and stressed. Dropping these sessions reminds me of times together to LCS and draw. Super miss. Shoot some pencils and make time to draw along with you. That would be lovely. We've actually talked about doing like a group drawing or a group inking. Like if I drew something and posted it online, people could print it out and practice inking on it, or we could just pick a topic, and the artists in the thing could do it if they felt like it. Those were fun. The old days. We used to have a comics forum, which we would talk about new and old comics. We'd have a topic, and if we didn't have much to talk about, I could ramble about the topic. Lots of rambling, yes. A different time. Oh, I'm glad. Didn't put everyone to sleep. Oh, and you knew your stuff. You always knew your comic stuff. You and M and Robert, he was in here earlier in the chat room. He may have disappeared, but then he'll come back with some comment like I am never really gone or something. He usually has a quippy comeback for his return. I have not been to the comic store in a little while. I went a few weeks ago, picked up a handful of old dollar books like I do. Maybe I'll go tomorrow before the movie. You can tell I'm on my own this week because I'm talking about catching a superhero movie on a school night. See, that looks better. Even just going over it a little bit with this one made that look better. So drawing tiny is very difficult. At this point in my life, I like to draw a little bigger than I used to. I don't know if it's because my eyesight's going, my hands are going, or any combination thereof. It is 9:20. Trying to think if there's anything else I missed as far as the first step of the Kickstarter. I don't think a lot. I was lucky. I had a lot of help in the setup phase. My buddy Jeff McClellan, who'd done a bunch, Jenny Wood, handful of people were willing to help me out and look at my Kickstarter before it launched. I did find one thing interesting, and it was something, and it was a positive thing that I just didn't foresee happening. Was is that people wanted to get more than one um, reward tier, so I had to build some of the add-ons as the campaign was going on. I didn't think that, you know, I mean, I guess you could end it with "I didn't think," like you could just put a period at the end of that statement, but I guess I didn't foresee people fitting into that category of wanting to get more than one reward tier. It never crossed my mind. I'm excited to draw the field guide. Um, oh, absolutely. No, it wasn't bugging. It was just a matter of like I just didn't know. Like if I had known that it would have been a thing, I would have built them in advance. It's nothing to be sorry about. It was a very good thing. It's just something that I learned. I would learn if we choose to do another one, we succeed in getting everyone their books and everything, and people are happy with it. I'll just do a better job for the next one. Um, I'm excited to draw the little field guide. That's something from my childhood that I was nostalgic about. Was there were these things called Max Field Guides when I was a kid, and they were little laminated things with pictures of fish on them. That's pretty much what you're getting with this one. It will be laminated, so you can take it to the beach with you and be like, "Oh, that's a killifish. That's a hermit crab. That's a sea robin." That's something that everyone that got a physical reward will get. We got some people that live on the West Coast that are in the Kickstarter, so I'll include some Pacific Ocean seaside fish. So you know, it's not just Atlantic. And I know people didn't fully understand the whole Atlantic Pacific Ocean thing. I just thought it was neat because, like, for me, seeing the Pacific Ocean was a big deal when I went to San Diego Comic Con the first time. I'd never seen the Pacific Ocean in person, and I just thought it would be a cool thing. It just makes the world feel more connected, not quite as big and far away. Brian says, "Some people, I have no idea who." I can't imagine who he's inferring with that. Couldn't have been the person who made multiple emails. I wish I had more answers for some of those questions. I just, again, like, these are things that are new to me, so I'm still learning the processes. and the whole situation with people's credit cards. And that was a friend of mine from Colorado sent me a text message and said, "Hey, is this a scam? Is somebody like trying to pester your backers?" And I said, "Well, it looks legit, but let me take a look on the back end." And I was able to look on my end and see that, and he didn't realize it, but like his credit card had expired. He just hadn't put the new one in, which I had done myself for a Kickstarter at one point. Oh, thanks, Gregory. I don't know everything, and I don't pretend to know everything. And I like the possibilities with Kickstarter. I mean, over 100 people said that they wanted to check out this book, and you know they were willing to pay for it in advance so that I had the money and resources to make the book. Because like a lot of creators nowadays simply use Kickstarter as a platform to sell a finished book, which means they have to invest thousands and thousands of hours into making it and taking all that cost on themselves, and I'm just not able to do that. So I had to really just I did as much as I possibly could, and I promise you, like, I worked my tail off to get everything I could get done as possible. I wish I was more done, but I had to move and do all kinds of crazy stuff this year. Um, but yeah, I just don't have the resources to front all the production and time and creation. One of the things that I'm so grateful for was the hire some help tier. That's going to be immense. I'm going to be able to pay another professional to help me get the coloring done, by doing the flats. I'm still going to go in and do the rendering just because I want to. But yeah, this gives the possibility of, as long as I deliver and people like the book, that folks are willing to help me take on the cost of making it. And that's electric bills, that's internet, that's Adobe monthly costs. That's like, that's all stuff that I take on myself. And I understand the phrase, it's the cost of doing business, but you know, I people have asked me to make more stuff, and I would if I could. And this is making it possible for me to be able to do that. Because usually when I self-publish, I just print however many I can afford. All right, we actually have to get an even smaller pen for this part, believe it or not. This is an 01. This is like the smallest pen that I have. I don't really love microns, but they serve a purpose. Well, we'll draw Helena here. One of those storytelling consistencies is, her X is in her left hand here, her left hand there, but it's in her right hand here. So between panels, she switches hands. Got to be aware of the stuff that happens between the panels. This is like the smallest drawing of Helena ever. When drawing something that's like this far away, it's so important to get the proportions right. Not the detail. Don't worry about the detail, but the proportions, like ratio of height of head, and Candace Marie Gilligan says, "I'd like to be in your comics." Well, thanks. The '05 works well. I just don't have one on me right now. Yeah, I would prefer the Faber-Castell one, but the last one I had, I snapped it the other day, unfortunately, and these are all old. You can see how, these have been around forever. But I agree with you. I think it's a better pen. There we go. Gotta get her cape. Let's just let that dry for a minute. We'll clean up some of this over here while we're waiting for that to dry. With Milton Caniff, is it worth buying the Terry and the Pirates reprints to start? Oh, I know. I've got my list of people who volunteered to be slaughtered in Helena, and it's issue 3. I'm like halfway through issue 2. We get to issue 3. That's when all of my friends meet their demise on the battlefield. There is a flashback sequence in 2 that I might add something to, but for the most part, there's a big, big battle in issue 3. But you can see there's a tiny little Helena. Because she's far away. But yeah, we're at 9:34. I think we're gonna actually just call it a night. We didn't get this finished, and we didn't get this finished, but I feel like with the 3 characters here, and then figuring out the proportions of Helena, we did okay. Just trying to be nice to myself a little bit with that one. So, but the Kniff Terry and the Pirates reprints, I think you could see most of that stuff online. if you can see the black and white art, that's the best way to look at it. I look at originals. I've read the stuff. I've read it. The stories are not, um, the strength. It's the graphic design of the visuals. I feel like anybody like Frank Robbins or anyone that is a derivative of Kniff. People are either, like a Hal Foster direction or a Kniff direction as far as their adventure cartooning. And I don't know. I enjoy it. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for everyone, and congratulations, everything that everybody supported. Next week we'll just be working on a page of the book. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna dive right into it. And Undersea Hero is go, and I have all of you to thank for it. So we'll see you next Wednesday. Good night.